The story opens in an old city called Isgard, where a lot of people are gathered in a place and are cheering for a hero who is passing from there on a horse. From down the road, a young boy and his sister are running toward the venue, wanting to be part of the celebrations. They reach the venue, but the boy is annoyed to see that, due to his sister's slow running, they have missed the celebration. Suddenly, the young boy freezes on his spot, surprising his sister who just wanted him to slow down. But he has stopped. Just then, she notices a man walking past them, completely covered in a black robe and hiding his face in a hood. The woman looks at the man, but her brother scolds her to not stare at the man, as he is a Dark Mage. The young girl doesn't seem to know what the Dark Mage means, so her brother tells her that this man is cursed. Meanwhile, inside the castle, a young woman is standing, looking out the window, when the same man known as the Dark Mage comes there. The man, whom she addressed as Minold, throws a head covered in a mask on the floor, and Coldy says that the last threat to his guard has been eliminated. The woman starts to say that she wants to thank him on behalf of the Empire, but Minold interrupts her from saying that and instead asks her to fulfill her end of the promise. The woman assures him that she remembers his promise, and he shouldn't worry about that. As he takes off his hood, she asks him if she should call him Joon, his real name. Together, they both move to a hall inside the castle, and the woman tells Joon that she didn't give him the job of being a Dark Mage because she dislikes him. Joon replies that he hates her so much, but she ignores his words and continues that she is grateful to him, that he worked so hard for the Empire behind closed doors. She says that he has accomplished so much to change the biased opinion of Dark Mages in his guard and asks if he really wants to return to his original world. Joon replies without hesitation that he wants to go back and kneels down on the ground, asking the woman to let him go back since they had already used him enough. The woman doesn't give up, as she says that Joon will be rewarded for all the bad treatments he received if he decides to stay back for the Empire. Joon coldly says that she should stop acting now, which triggers the woman as she insists that she is being sincere. Joon stands up slowly, as he says that she brought him here by force and used him like a slave. So what is the next thing she wants to do? He says that she just wants him to stay back so she can use him more, and she asks what reward she will give him if he stays here. The woman seems excited by his suggestion to stay behind, and quickly says that if he makes this decision, she will give him whatever he wants since their empire will be in danger if he is not here. She is surprised when Joon asks her to bring him the foods, like Korean fried chicken and jokbal. Joon continues how the food here is very disgusting, and it feels more like feed than food. He continues to say that he can't survive here like that. The woman is embarrassed by his accusation and tries to say that they will interfere, but Joon just ignores her and asks to bring him a monstrous PC with incredible specs and the fastest internet connection. He seems desperate, as he says that he needs to collect the reward for the godly game Dungeon Power Fighter as a human user, so she should give it to him immediately. The woman interrupts him and says that he should demand something that she can provide him from the Ice Guard, but understanding that this is the reason Joon can't stay here, she dejectedly says that they will start the return ceremony. They both go to another hall, which is giving Joon nostalgia since he came here after a long time, but doesn't want to return here ever again. The woman tells him to stand in the middle of the summoning seal, the exact place where he was originally summoned. Following her instructions, Joon stands in the middle of the circle that starts to glow instantly, and the woman says that she will release the protection of the saint first. Joon takes off his glove as he stares at his hand, thinking about how the protection of the saint is actually a leash that stops him from fighting that woman, and is happy that he is finally going to be released from this cycle. Without wasting much time, the woman starts her magic, but she still wants to convince Joon to stay back and remind him of all the power, riches, and fame he received here. He flatly tells her not to meddle in his business, and then asks her if she is scared while doing this because once this saint is gone, she can die by his hands. The woman says that she will willingly accept it, since she was the one who started it all, and then tells him that the protection has been undone so he can kill her if he wants. She turns around saying that if he doesn't want to kill her, she will start the next stage of the ceremony and remove the powers that Joon has obtained in Isgard. Before she can do so, Joon suddenly throws a flash of his magic at her, wrapping it harshly around her neck. She shouts that it will be dangerous for him to travel back to his world with all these powers, but Joon doesn't let her go. He shouts at her that he worked really hard to obtain these powers, and he will not leave them behind at any cost. He then throws the woman on the ground, who is sure that he will not be able to open the portal with his dark, but to her shock, he manages to open a portal. She doesn't understand how he managed to do that with his dark magic and warns him not to attempt the dimensional travel so rashly. Min-joon calmly replies that he is aware of that, and this is why he has practiced it a lot of times since he has reached the peak of his dark magic powers. He says to her that they shouldn't have divided the magic into dark and light, since it is all the same, and then steps into the portal, saying that he never wants to see her again. As the portal disappears, the woman angrily punches the ground, saying that she wasn't doing this because she enjoys all this. Meanwhile, Min-joon has finally returned to his world and instantly goes to grab his phone, which was lying on his table. He is happy to feel this sensation again and turns on the phone, ecstatic to see that it is actually his mobile and that he has finally returned from that horrible place. He wanted to play the dungeon power game, but to his surprise, his phone has no internet connection. Outside his apartment, some military officers are carefully moving forward, following the target's location they have been provided with. One of the soldiers asks their Corporal Choi why some regular soldiers like them are sent on this mission, but Choi just replies that he doesn't know and they should ask the administrative officer. They are ready to launch the attack, but it comes to a sudden halt when they notice a civilian in that place. Min-joon is carelessly walking on the road, mumbling about how it has been 2 years since he was summoned to Isgard, and just thinking about it is making him angry. He is annoyed with the fact that the network is not working, and there are also no stores open at this time. The soldiers are shocked to see him and whisper to each other how a civilian can be in a restricted area. They finally call Min-joon, who is also surprised to see the soldiers there and is thinking that they must be training here. He apologizes, saying that he was just running around when suddenly one of the soldiers shouted at him to move away. Surprised, he looks back and is shocked to see a monstrous wolf launching at him. Min-joon stands there numbly, staring at the monster, while soldiers shout at him to move away. Min-joon curls his fingers, thinking about how this stupid monster is not even worth one punch. But he is shocked when he realizes that his demonic energy is completely gone. He comes out of the shock quickly, and as the monster comes near him, he slams it on the ground with just one hand. The monster's head cracks open, killing him on the spot instantly, and all the soldiers are absolutely baffled to see this. The blood gets on Min-joon's face and clothes, but he is unfazed as he talks to the dead monster, saying that he is not useless just because he lost his demonic energy, and that even if he becomes weaker, he is not at a level where a stupid monster like that can beat him up. The whole scene reminds him of the intense strength training he went through in Isgard, but the point that is bothering him more is why the monster has appeared in this world. He stands up, filled with blood, and turns toward the soldiers, wanting to ask them something, but they stumble back due to fear, telling him not to come closer to them. Soon Min-joon is with the soldiers in their car, as Corporal Choi tells him that he can even go to jail for his actions, but they are letting him go because the commander told them not to escalate the situation further. Choi asks him if he really doesn't know what is happening these days, to which Min-joon quickly replies that he just came back from abroad. He is thinking to himself how this is not the Korea he used to know, and doesn't understand what happened in these last 2 years and how it changed everything. He recalls how the phenomenon of dungeons appeared when he was around 7 years old. Monsters from the dungeon started appearing in this world, and he remembers soldiers beating them up, like right now. After the dungeon appears, some superhumans that were called the Awakened, with abilities that surpass the level of average humans, join the Hunter Corp, a newly established military base, and they completely wipe out the monsters as soon as they appeared. Before he was summoned to his guard, Korea had no danger of being harmed in civilian areas. He looks at the no connectivity notification on his phone, and after realizing something, he is annoyed with the fact that Korea has returned to square one after going through so much. He keeps tapping on his phone, desperately wanting to play that game, and he also wants to see if the server opens up. Choi is staring at him and is confused by how Min-joon doesn't know about this since the whole world is in this mess. He is suspicious of Min-joon but decides not to prey on it further, thinking that he must have a story of his own. Min-joon calls him, asking if the people have evacuated safely, like game developers, and if it is still possible to get a job, specifically at a game company. He's curious about the destruction of buildings, like server storage systems, and asks Choi what actually happened to create this mess. Choi says that he will explain everything since he got an AI and monster theory, and dungeonology when he studied at university. Joon is surprised that they teach something like this at the university, to which Choi replies that almost every university teaches it. He then starts to explain, saying that the situation got this bad because of the weird phenomenon that started to spread from the dungeons 2 years ago. The dungeon started to appear more frequently and got larger in size, but the biggest problem was the increasing number of giant monsters. Because of that, the military couldn't control the dungeons anymore, and the situation got so bad that they had to lock down some civilian areas. Since then, the military's been trying to fight back, but they don't have enough people to do so. Joon is shocked to hear all this, as the only thing he wants to do is play his Dungeon Power Fighter game. Choi asks him about his age, and when Joon tells him that he is almost 21 years old, Choi tells him that he should enlist soon, and almost half of his 20s are about to evaporate into thin air. Joon is confused by his statement and says that there wasn't a military duration of 5 years for the Hunter Corp and 3 years for regular troops. Choi tells him that ever since the situation has worsened in recent years, all troops now serve for 5 years, and if Joon is 21, he might already have his enlistment letter. Joon is baffled to hear this, as he was just planning to play his game and heal after coming back to his world, but now he has to enlist for 5 years. Just then his phone rings, and he looks at it to find a message from the military administration telling him that his enlistment date is tomorrow. As reality slowly sets in, Joon shouts in desperation, "How can this be real? As it is impossible to enlist without a physical examination, and they notified him just a day before." Choi replies that, just like he said, they are short on manpower. So the physical exam is done at the training centers, and for the notification, he just saw it late. He then suggests that Joon go to the nearest PC room to double-check his notification. Joon recalls how he was holed up in his room and played games after his parents went missing. When he was in 12th grade, he was summoned to his guard, and at that time he had no friends. Currently, he is sitting in a PC room, ecstatic that such a place still exists and that he got a chance to play the game again. He keeps ordering food because after fulfilling his need to play games, he checked the internet and found that everything that Choi told him about this world is true, including the enlistment date he had been notified of by the military administration. If he still had all his powers from Isgard, he would have been able to clear all of the dungeons by himself. But for some reason, his body is completely depleted of the demonic energy that is the main source of his magic. He is still not defenseless though, so he can probably still clear all the dungeons by himself. He finally decides on doing that and is excited by the fact that he will solve all this by himself. The next day, he goes to the military base, where a lot of people are gathered to enlist, but they all look very depressed. Just then, a voice grabs their attention, telling all the soldiers to report to the auditorium. Joon also moves forward, thinking about whether the military would be the same as his guard. As they all gather in the auditorium, the instructors keep shouting at them, telling everyone to inch forward and stand straight. Joon is not very fazed by yelling, as they are still nicer than the instructors in his guard. One of the instructors asks them to raise their hands if they wanted to apply to the Hunter Corp, but didn't get the chance to, telling them how the treatment of the Hunter Corp is very different from that of the regular troops, but their pay scale is higher. When no one raises their hand, the instructors are about to move forward, but suddenly they notice Joon with his hand in the air. The battalion commander tells him to come forward, and Joon shocks everyone as he takes a high jump, landing straight in front of the instructors. He introduces himself to them, saying that he would like to apply to the Hunter Corp.